Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. Whenever we want to render judgment or vengeance towards another individual who perhaps has wronged us, there's basically three people that we should consider when we think about whether we should do that or not. There is the other person involved, and then there is ourself, and then there's also God. And we see these three things come out in our reading today. For one, we have to consider the other person. Whenever we want to enact judgment or vengeance on the other person, we can see that if we will but uh, actually return good for evil, if we'll actually be kind and loving to the other person, it might actually cause the other person to consider their position. We see this with David and Saul. Saul had risen up against David. He'd been chasing after David. He was jealous of David. However, when David had an opportunity to kill Saul, he refrained from doing so. And when Saul found out that David had refrained from doing so, it really caused him to be convicted in his heart. In 1 Samuel chapter 24 and in verse 17, he said to David, "You are more righteous than I, for you have dealt well with me, while I have dealt wickedly with you." So when we think about whether we should enact our own vengeance, we could say that oftentimes it's harder on the other person if we return good for evil instead of trying to get back at them. Here, Saul becomes very convicted in heart. He realizes that he's in the wrong, David is in the right, and therefore it really pricks his heart that he had been chasing after David. And so there's one reason why we should refrain from enacting our own vengeance, because oftentimes it will cause a change of heart in the other person. If you remember, Romans chapter 12 says that we'll heap burning coals on their head when we return good for evil. But then there's also ourselves to consider as well. And this is brought out with Abigail, who warns David against enacting judgment and vengeance against Nabal, who had dealt cruelly with David and his men. And she warns him and says, okay, well, if you do go in and destroy all the house of Nabal, it's going to cause you some consternation later. In 1 Samuel chapter 25 and verse 30, she says, "And when the Lord does for my Lord according to all the good that he has spoken concerning you, and appoints you ruler over Israel, this will not cause grief or troubled heart to my Lord, both by having shed blood without cause and by my Lord having avenged himself." One of the reasons we should not enact our own vengeance towards others is for ourselves. In regards to the other person, it actually might cause them to have a change of heart. But when it comes to ourselves, it really will keep us from having a guilty conscience later. It might feel good in the moment to go out against another person and to lash out at the other person, but then we might end up with just a guilty conscience ourselves later on as we consider the ugly way that we responded in the situation. And so for ourselves, perhaps we should refrain from vengeance. But then there's God. God should be considered as well. And this is what should ultimately cause us to want to refrain from enacting our own vengeance. To recognize the fact that ultimately it's God who will settle the accounts. As again, Romans chapter 12 talks about, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. And we see this with Nabal in connection to David. After Nabal hears about the fact that David was going to rise up against his household, it causes Nabal perhaps to suffer a stroke. We don't know exactly what happened, but something physically happened to him when he heard that David was going to rise up against him, but then didn't. In verse 37 of 1 Samuel 25, it says, "But in the morning, when the wine had gone out of Nabal, his wife told him these things, and his heart died within him, so that he became as a stone." And then it goes on and says, "About 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal, and he died." And David goes on to recognize the fact that it was the Lord who had brought judgment and vengeance upon Nabal. And that should encourage us to withhold vengeance and wrath against other people, and knowing that ultimately God is going to settle accounts. And so if ever we're wronged by another person and we want to really lash out against them and really act ugly towards them, we should consider three people. We should consider the other person. What will really convict the other person? Will it be us fighting fire with fire, or will it be us returning good for evil? Then we could consider ourselves. What can we live with? How can we sleep at night knowing how we responded in this situation? If we respond in a good and wholesome way, then we can say, at least I did my part in responding the right way. And then we can consider God and recognize that God is ultimately the judge. God is ultimately the one who will bring vindication and judgment, and we can leave that to him. So if we ever find ourselves in that situation, we can remember these certain things. So there's some things we can reflect on and think about as we do our reading today. With that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.